Okay, so still working our way through the Ten Commandments, and this commandment on the surface is pretty straightforward. In fact, in the Hebrew, it's basically two words. No killing. That's about it, I guess, if you want to put it in English. It's very brief, and that's actually sort of, I will say that usually these takes a little bit of thought and putting together. This was pretty straightforward. It just kind of flowed because there's not a lot of exegetical complication with it. There's one little issue we'll discuss, but a lot of the other ones, it's you have the command and there may be other things. For example, with the honor your father and mother, the fifth commandment, you remember that it was a commandment that came with a promise, to use Pauline language. And so if you're going to exegete it, you have to address that promise as well. This one and the next few don't really have that. Pretty straightforward. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery. And you would think that this is so obvious it doesn't need to be written down. But what is evident about human nature is it is written down for a reason. And it still needs to be written down even today. So a few weeks ago, I don't even know now, when the assassination of Charlie Kirk took place, that was right before our Wednesday services. Knowing that we were in the Ten Commandments, it was a real temptation for us to jump to this command. And it would have been a lot of work to do that. However, I do think with time, moving forward and whatnot, I think it's been good that we've waited because we've actually been able to see just how pressing this command is in our culture, and why we might assume we all agree to this when it's clear to me that we don't. And we need to be reminded why this is such an important command. So what we want to do is to start with basically looking at the command, and then we'll look at some basic points of application. Let's just look at the command itself. Now, again, this is pithy, it is straightforward, and it's easy to figure out. Don't murder. Now, I suspect we have various translations of the Bible in front of us. So I've been saying do not murder, but this is the one exegetical question of this, and that is, should we say kill or should we say murder? I forgot to put quotations around murder. Should it say do not kill or should it say do not murder? So I'm going to show you how this breaks down. Translations that use kill, it would be King James, Tyndale, Bishop. It's interesting, Tyndale translated the Ten Commandments. He did all the New Testament, only parts of the Old Testament. But he did do this. So Tyndale is the main influence of the King James. And the Geneva Bible was the Bible before the King James. It was translated in Geneva and then brought over by Knox and others. They translated it down there into English, and the king didn't like it because it was a translation that was not too fond of the monarchy. Anyway, but I want you to notice that all of these translations are from 1611 or sooner. So the Tyndale Bible is the oldest up there. So between late 16th century, early 17th century, all of these translations say kill. These translations are all more modern translations. In fact, Legacy is a brand new one. The Net Bible is my personal favorite. This is the Baptist Bible you've heard me joke about, the Holman Christian Standard. It's your Lifeway material, Sunday school. Uses the Christian Standard Bible, which is what it's called now. ESV is what I use up here, and NIV. At one point, I think it still is the most popular translation in English. But you'll notice that all of them say murder. So there seems to be a generational issue. Is why do we go from kill to murder? Do not kill is not a bad translation. It does lack some of the nuance that I think that is necessary for us to understand what is going on here. The word murder provides greater clarity because the Bible does sanction the taking of life. Let me give you a few examples here. I think this would be a good summary of it. For example, war. Throughout our history, Jews and Gentiles, or Jews and Christians rather, for the most part we haven't been pacifists. There are pacifist groups. The Quakers, for example, were pacifists and others. But for the most part, we've understood that that war is something that we must reluctantly engage in. And the Old Testament, of course, is full of it. I started to write down all the battles of the Bible, and then I got tired of that. I just got to be honest with you, there's a lot. Let me give you some of the first ones I came across, and then I just got tired. The Battle of Sidon, or Sidon. This is in Genesis when Abraham rounds up the troops, and he wages war against Sodom and Gomorrah and others. It's out of that we get the story of Melchizedek. The Battle of the Rephidim, this is during the Exodus. It's where they fight the Amalekites. The conquest of Bashan, so if you know the stories in Numbers and Deuteronomy. The war against the Midianites, Numbers 31. Jericho, of course. Ai, the Amorites of Joshua 10. And then, of course, Judges is full of it. Gideon goes into battle, sanctioned by God. Ehud and Deborah and Barak and Samson and all that. Now, they may be more skirmishes or battles or maybe even all-out wars. But it is clear that the Bible gives room for war. There are times when the Bible does sanction violence against another nation. And in fact, in times it can be rather graphic. The story that comes to mind is Samuel hacking Agag to pieces. What was the command? Saul, you go in against the Amalekites and you just wipe them out. And he kept Agag as a trophy. And so Samuel says, you have disobeyed the Lord. You should have taken his life. And so I will take his life. So what we have here is a prophet of God, the last of the judges, the first of the prophets, executing a man. It is worth noting here that in the New Testament, we wrongly think, well, the Old Testament is bloody. New Testament's all about love. But the New Testament does not condemn military service at all. Let me give you just a few examples here. Luke 3, soldiers asked John the Baptist, what shall we do? And he said to them, do not extort money from anyone by threats or by false accusations. Be content with your wages. Notice what John the Baptist does not tell the soldiers. He does not tell them, lay down your arms and leave the military. He says, if you're going to be in the military, you're going to be just, good, and right. You're going to do it with integrity. You're not going to use your position of power to steal from others. Same thing in Acts 10. There was a man named Cornelius, a centurion. So here you have a Roman Gentile. He possibly has Jewish blood on his hands. He's the centurion, so he has 100 soldiers underneath him. A lot of centurions in the New Testament find Jesus. There's a centurion at the foot of the cross that finds Jesus. Jesus interacts with him. Leave the army. Luke 14. Jesus says, what king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000. Notice, again, now this is Jesus using it as an illustration, but even there, Jesus does not come out and say, look, I know I'm a pacifist, but can I use this as an illustration? It's just almost assumed that this is part of reality. And it is an unfortunate part of reality. We do not promote war, blessed are the peacemakers, but we are not pacifists. And war does require the taking of life, and we grieve over that, but it does. And so this is one of the reasons why the difference between do not kill and do not murder, that word murder offers some nuance. But with that said, this is a good place for us just to insert, we can't talk about it very long, what do we think about war in general? That is, Christians have developed what has become known as just war theory. Understand that before Christianity, war meant do whatever is necessary to win. It's like, college football. Break every rule you can, just go win. And you do need to think about that. In the 20th century, we have dual realities. One is a new category of killing that scholars have called mega death, that we kill on a massive scale. Genocide was not something really understood or practiced until the 20th century. Now, you get the Holocaust and Rwanda and other stuff where you have entire people groups being wiped out in a rather quick pace. It is absolutely stunning, the amount of death in the 20th century. 3 atheistic dictators killed about 100 million people. And they're killing their own people to achieve that. It is wicked and condemned. But you get a nation like the United States of America who is rather restrained. We fought Vietnam without dropping an atomic bomb. You ever really thought about that? We could have ended that war rather quick. What is restraining? Now, one of our restraints is, we didn't want someone else to do that to us at the time. It's right in the middle of the Cold War. But everything changes with Christianity and how war is being put out. You understand that there's the Geneva Convention, that after World War I, we really started to think seriously about what is unacceptable in warfare. Remember, it was the Syrian dictator that used biological warfare a few years ago. I think it was during the Obama administration. That had not happened by any nation in the West. Why? Because nations in the West are still impacted by the influence of Christianity. So what are real quick, the just war theory. I don't want to spend forever on this, so I'll just put them all up here. Has to be a just cause. That is, usually is defined as defense of a nation. You're not going to go just to pillage and to take land and all that sort of stuff. Revelation 19:11. Competent authority. That is, it cannot be a renegade band within a nation waging war, but a recognized authority. So in America, in theory, Congress declares war. The president carries out as the commander-in-chief. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that has not happened since Pearl Harbor, World War II. I don't think we ever declared war in Vietnam. I don't think we ever did Persian Gulf. I know we didn't do it with the War of Terror. I think World War II is the last time we did that. So what America does is the president has authority for military things for like so many days, and then you have to get some sort of resolution from Congress, but it's not a declaration of war. I could have that wrong. I'm not an expert, but it would be good if we as a nation said our elected leaders have given authority to do this, but that's neither here nor there. Comparative justice, so clarity on the moral actions of the enemies being wrong and the actions of one's nation being right. So the most obvious example here is Nazism is bad. The genocide of Jews is bad. We should stop that. Right intention. The purpose ought to be to protect justice rather than to rob, pillage, and destroy the other nation. In the ancient world, you went to war because you wanted their land. And it's not more complicated than that. The more land you had, the more peace you had. And if you didn't take their land, they're going to take yours. Fifthly, a last resort. Other reasonable means to resolve the conflict should be considered. This is why diplomacy is so important, and everything with it. Sixthly, probability of success. Can you win the war? Now, there may be times when you say, okay, we realize we're unlikely to win, but all of our options are off the table. They are coming this way, But as a general rule, you don't declare war. Why? Because you're putting lives in danger. Proportionality of projected results. Are the results from the war going to be better than if the war had not been waged? And then the right spirit. Is the war undertaken with great reluctance and sorrow rather than delight? There's different versions of that. It looks like I left off right spirit. So there's 8. There's 7 up there. Right spirit is the 8th. There will be other versions of just war theory, but this is it in a nutshell. Now, I'll let you decide if the various conflicts in our world fit this category. I doubt you'll find many wars that fit every single one of them, but understand that it is because of this command, which does leave room for warfare reluctantly. It is because of this command that we are even talking about this. Christians have come and said, yes, there are times when war is necessary, but what we do not do is just slaughter people in the name of war. There must be restraints. And you're just not going to find that in history. So war is evidence that we should translate this, do not murder. Self-defense is another one. Exodus 22:2, if a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. I mentioned this earlier to someone. Last night, got to bed late because of the games, and been asleep at an hour or two, and our dog was just going crazy, and our next door neighbor's dog's going crazy, and it gave me the impression someone's on our property. And so I get up, and we have a camera and all that, so the alarm's on, and I go to the front door, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and the dog's just going crazy. So I bring the dog in, everything's okay, sets the alarm, all that, but I just don't see anything. I mean, I'm in front of the window for a while, and so I pull up our camera, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and it was like a groundhog. A groundhog. Yeah. It's guys, come on, we're sleeping in here, But I've explained to the kids that General rule, I'm not into throwing down, but I am willing to protect the family, and I think the Bible does leave room for that. Animals. Now, this may come as a surprise. The Bible addresses what do you do with violent animals. Exodus 21, when an ox gores a man to death, the ox shall be stoned. We follow this even today. If you have a rabid dog, that's a legal problem. We can't have rabid dogs. In To Kill a Mockingbird, one of the most important scenes is the rabid dog that, his name is leaving me, the dad puts down, right? Because he's the best shot in town. And it's a very important scene in the book. But notice this. The owner of the ox shall not be liable. Look, animals they're wild in general. You can domesticate them all you want. They are wild. But notice this, verse 29. But if the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has been warned but has not kept it in, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner ought to be put to death. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Now, I am not advocating we execute pet owners, but you can see what's sort of happening here. It is because life is precious, it should be protected. And at times that does mean you have to take life. And that if you have an animal, an ox in this case, that is in a danger to the community, then you've got to protect life. And sometimes that does require taking life. I think I have one more here, and that is capital punishment. It's hinted at in the passage we just read about the ox goring someone. Now, so if you want to know, I do feel like we're back in ethics class when I was a professor. I believe in capital punishment. That should be an A, by the way. I apologize. Capital commission is an O because it's the building, but the city is an A, and the capital, like a capital C, is an A. So I apologize for that typo. The PowerPoint is not the divine word of God. So it's capital with an A. Anyways, so I do hold to capital punishment is not only biblical. I do think it's something that needs to be carried out. And I'm probably to the right of some of you all on capital punishment. I'd be to the left of some of y'all on other things. I'm probably more to the right on this. America, or let's say middle of the 20th century-ish in the West is when we stopped doing public executions. I'm not sure you're going to find that anywhere else in history. We've privatized that. It's limited to people immediately involved. But before that, throughout history, all executions were done publicly. The last legal hanging in my hometown was on Mom and Dad's property. You can read all about it in the book, The Confession of Richard Shuck by Kyle McDaniel. We grew up with the story, and during COVID, I did a little research on it. It's a crazy story. He was accused, found guilty of killing his father-in-law. And that was done publicly. People put on their best Sunday dresses, and they came out on Mom and Dad's property. Of course, the house wasn't there at the time. And it was a whole thing. He had to stay in Frankfurt, even though Oynton had a brand new jail. He had to stay in Frankfurt. They were afraid he'd be lynched. However, his last words were indicting other people who were guilty of murder, and they got lynched. It was a very different time. So all that to say, sorry I got distracted. The Bible does support this. Genesis 9, for your lifeblood I will require reckoning. From every beast I will require from man. From his fellow man I will require reckoning for life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. Notice here that the issue of capital punishment, the foundation is the Imago Dei. That the taking of life is so serious that capital punishment is reserved for it. It is so serious, the most serious thing has to be done. So the Mosaic Law is full of capital punishment. We just saw one about the animals. The word sword is found in the New Testament. I'll give you two examples. It means capital punishment. So Herod killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And then Paul will use that same language to say the state, Caesar, has the power of the sword. So understand what we mean here is that this is a responsibility of proper authority, much like war. We do not believe in lynchings. We do not believe in vengeance killing. We do not believe in Batman figures going around instituting justice. Okay, we don't believe that. What we believe is that justice is done best when it's taken out of those emotionally involved and given to a third party. We call that the state. So what you'll get is the people versus this or that. And so we have entrusted government officials, police, detectives, whatnot. They will do investigation. They will have a trial. But if it is found guilty of a capital crime, I do believe, this is me, we can have a conversation later, I do believe it should be carried out. That if you take life, particularly in first-degree murder, you have crossed a line that is very, very serious. And so, now, with that said, not only is capital punishment limited to authority of the government, that does not mean that it has to be carried out every time. Think of Cain, think of David. They got blood on their hands, and they were not punished in this way. At the same time, even when it is authorized, not all lives taken are just. Executing the wicked is, of course, executing the innocent, rather, is wicked, and we should do all that we can to prevent it. I'll let those who are better at this address that. And I would also add here, the state increasingly will give authority to others to take life that we condemn. What I have in mind is, in particular, doctor-assisted suicide. I am very much against all forms of euthanasia. I understand that at the end of life, there is some gray area. But when a patient or the family or certainly the state advocates prematurely taking life to save resources, we have a problem on our hands. And if you want to know what that problem looks like, go north of our border. Not to Indiana, that's bad enough, but go up to Canada. They are killing their own citizens in the name of comfort and peace and relief. In fact, you can California. I think I'm right here. California and Canada have roughly the same amount of population. I think the comparison's right, and so they're a good case. California has euthanasia legalized, as is Oregon and other states, and increasingly even some red states. And Canada has it, and the amount of people who are being euthanized in Canada is just far, far more than California. California is not exactly a bastion of right-wing-ism. So. This should concern us. 2004, there was a case. I was in college. It was Terri Schiavo. I don't know if you all remember this. There was some question about the nature of how this happened. Terri Schiavo was paraplegic. She was couldn't take care of herself, and her husband, who was with his girlfriend that he didn't want to marry because he didn't want to lose the rights to Terri Schiavo, he was advocating euthanasia, and Terri Schiavo's parents said, no, give us the rights to our daughter. We want to protect her life. And it went, I think, all the way to the Supreme Court and affected the 2004 presidential election. Her life was taken. They starved her to death. This is not in Canada. This is not in the Middle East. This is in the United States. You can look it up. Starved her to death. And there's cameras right there watching her. Here's a lady, really, she's very limited. She fell or something like that and was found on the ground by her husband. And it had done damage to her brain, limited her mobility, and they just removed her feeding tube. She starved to death. So even though doctors were given authority by the states, I certainly reject that, and I'm not a fan of any of that. But so what is the point of all this? Okay. This command condemns the malicious or even careless taking of God's image bearers, regardless of their development. Let me give you two examples here. Genesis 4:10, this is the murder of Abel. What have you done, God asked. The voice of your brother's blood. Notice the anthropomorphism of blood. Blood, of course, doesn't speak, but we know exactly what's being communicated here. Your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. What is he crying out for? Justice. Justice. This is God saying that you have crossed a line here. It was one thing to eat of the fruit, and now what has come of this? It's interesting. The judgment of Adam and Eve is that death will come, and it's not immediate. Death comes from within. The offspring of Adam and Eve who eat of the fruit commits fratricide. It's incredible the way the story is written, but the blood is crying from the ground. We had a preacher at Southern says that Abel preached the best sermon. He delivered the best sermon never preached, or something like that. And I think there's some truth to that. And he did it from Hebrews 11, but you don't care. I want to highlight this as well. When men strive together, so they're getting in a fight, you know, and one of them hits a woman who is pregnant, so that her children come out. So she has a miscarriage. But there is no harm. So the babies are born, but they survive. The one who hit her shall surely be fined. Okay, so that's the punishment. So what you're recognizing here is that you endanger the life of the unborn children and of the mother. And therefore, there should be a punishment. Here, it is a fine. But it says, do I have, I didn't put the rest of it on there. It goes on to say that if there is a miscarriage and the unborn child dies, then it's life for life. Capital punishment on the taking of an unborn child. So what you have then in this command is the summary of all of this. You have life is precious no matter the stage of development. And I would say from conception to grave. Life is precious. And so if you're going to honor mom and dad, what's going to come out of that is you're going to protect life. And if you worship the Lord your God, God is a God of life. It is the evil one that promotes death. And the obsession of death in our culture is something that should scare us to death. This has been a problem for a long, long time. So long as that tomb is empty, we will always be about life. That doesn't mean there aren't instances where decisions have to be made and life has to be forfeited. But as a general rule, we promote life. Now with that, do a little bit of application. I just want to make a few points here. Pretty straightforward. Number one, this command is clear. Let it be clear. Don't complicate this. And that is exactly what we are doing. This is actually where I think us waiting from the Kirk assassination to now, I think is really instructive. We should be appalled by our culture's inability to understand this. Murder is wrong regardless of motives, context, or the victim. Murder is wrong. Now, again, that should be obvious. We shouldn't be killing each other. That is a bad thing. However, as we slide into pagan secularism, we find ourselves justifying violence and often murder in the name of justice, in the name of moral right and whatnot. We do it in the name of race, or simply, they had it coming. Have you noticed this? Well, I don't agree with everything someone said, but if you're going to talk like that, someone's going to do that to you. Understand what you just did. You have complicated what ought to be clear. I am against murder. I'm the radical now. Don't kill people. I don't care your reasoning. Don't kill them. Don't kill them. If you're a doctor, don't kill your patient. If you're a 20-year-old kid who spends too much time online, don't kill people. Don't kill people. Any justification is something that should appall us. So that might mean that if you work for a private company, I don't think you should be killed for that. If you are a government employee trying to do your job, I don't think you should be killed for that. So I don't like cop killings. I don't like going after government agencies. Well, you should have known what you were getting into. We shouldn't be killing each other. That justification is the problem. I don't like that. I don't think you should be killed because your political, ethical, or moral opinion may run contrary to a gunman. Like, don't kill each other. It is a very clear commandment. It's 2 words in Hebrew. No murder. Don't do it. So I want to encourage us to avoid the immoral buts. I condemn all forms of political violence, but this person's rhetoric was too much. That immoral butt has been wearing me out over the last month. I hear it all over the place. Now, I don't think we should be killing CEOs, but healthcare is a really complicated thing and people are suffering out there. It should stop at, we shouldn't be killing CEOs. I want to add it to it. We shouldn't be killing. That's the period. Right there. Right there. I don't think we should be killing people in our neighborhood. I don't think we should be killing people we don't like. I don't think we should be killing, period. Doesn't matter the motivation. Doesn't matter the reason. Doesn't matter the context. Doesn't matter anything. Don't kill. The law and the command is just as clear as it can be. Now, one of the reasons Jesus was killed was because of this immoral butt. Pull this up, John 11. But Caiaphas said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you. Notice, that's the but. It's better for you that we get rid of this guy than we lose everything. That's the immoral but. Now, I'm not saying we should be just start killing other Jews out here. But the guy is just poking the bear. He had it coming. You can hear people in Jerusalem saying that at the foot of the cross, can't you? The dude had some good ideas. Loved his Twitter account. Incredible. As you see some of his TikToks, but he crossed a line. It's the same thing. Same thing. Caiaphas didn't like some of the things Jesus said and did. Jesus was a threat. And he said, well, yeah, I'm against murder, but, there's this no gray area. Don't kill people. And I have struggled over this last month over this issue. I've really struggled with this. We've got family and friends, too, who have posted nonsense online doing the immoral butt stuff, and is driving me crazy. As a general rule, I don't interact with people online, engage in that sort of nonsense, because arguing with fools turns you into one. And social media is the realm of fools. It is a megaphone for fools. But it has been very difficult. And my wife and I, we've had to share those things with each other. It's can you believe, increasingly I can. I can't believe that. We are against killing people. Understand now, we're the radicals. We're the radicals. Here's the other one is, do not celebrate murder or other acts of violence. Again, duh. Duh. This is where this has really gotten me, is that there's nothing, duh. I mean, I don't know how else to improve on that. This is such common sense, but it's not common sense anymore. Justice is good, and when it is carried out, we should understand it is necessary. When justice is carried out, even in something like capital punishment or in some sort of warfare context where justice is carried out, we should understand that it is necessary. We should be careful, particularly as Christians, being gleeful about it. There is a fine line from being pleased that the wicked are condemned and justice carried out in a fair and just way on the one end, and on the other end, celebrating the taking of life. I believe in capital punishment. I believe the wicked should be held account. I do believe that. You can disagree with me. We talk about that later. But I do hold to it. But I do not think we should come out of the house, guns a-blazing, shooting in the air, saying, we got them, didn't we? That we should be careful about the celebration of the taking of life. We should grieve that we still live in this world where such things might be necessary. And that includes our political opponents. We should never celebrate the taking of life. When we do, we are inviting similar behavior. This is true no matter what side of the aisle you're on. The left should never celebrate the taking of life on the right. The right should never celebrate the taking of life on the left. Some Mormons are dead right now, and we should grieve, even though I think Mormonism is heresy. Life is precious, and we should never celebrate the taking of life. Again, we can understand there may be times when certain things are done because we live in a broken world. We don't celebrate it. We don't post on Facebook, you got what was coming to you. We don't do that. We are a different people. There is certainly no justification in us celebrating the taking of innocent life. We are not to be a people pleased with violence and death. We promote life and grieve at the shedding of blood. We can summarize it this way. We do not riot and pillage. We gather to pray. We have to be different. We have to be different. I've shared with you all before, I have a real concern with the right. The right is I'm hoping right now with the Charlie Kirk thing, we can pull at least to the right, maybe to the left, back to Christ. I am hoping for that. I hope it's more than renewal. I hope it's reformation. I really hope that. But the minute the right has had enough with Christianity, everything that we've had to say about the left in the last month, we will have to say about the right. The right can be just as violent. And you pull the right away from Christianity, they're not gathering to pray, they're gathering to get blood. This is what tribalism does, and we are a tribal nation now. Left versus right, coast versus rural, and on and on. And tribal nations kill each other. Here's the last one. Jesus expands this command. Matthew 5 says this, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not murder,' but I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to council, and whoever says, 'You fool,' will be liable to hell of fire." Let me just summarize this real quick. Notice there's a trajectory here. Jesus begins with anger. He moves to insults, and he ends with "you fool." "You fool" is probably synonymous with the insult. Is the Greek word where we get our English word moron. It's morano. It is probably wishing someone to be cursed of God, basically. It's probably what's going on here. So you can see the trajectory as it gets worse and worse and worse. It starts with anger, all right? So that's a matter of the heart. It turns to vocalization, and then it turns to judgment. And so you see this increase of behavior. It starts here, and it just goes. Anger left unaddressed will not stay there. It will be communicated. It will be acted out. If you don't believe me, study the United States of the last 10 years, 20 years? This is what we've done. And social media has fueled it. It starts with we're just angry at the other side, and then we verbalize it on social media and everything else. We get into our little tribes, and then we start thinking, well, everyone who thinks like me is right. Everyone thinks like them aren't just wrong, but they are evil, and they should be stopped. And what happens is we get to the violent part. And so what you'll notice is the judgments get worse. So you start with so you're liable to judgment, and then you're liable to the council. So you have like a local council, and then you have the Sanhedrin, and then that's this council here is the Sanhedrin, the ones that condemn Jesus. And then what you get is hell itself. Right? So the judgments gets larger and larger. All right? But what is it Jesus is saying here? Jesus says, "You've heard it said, 'Do not murder.' And a lot of you," Jesus says, "you think you've cleared it. You've passed the test. You're like, well, I don't have, I'm no Cain. I haven't shed blood. I haven't taken a life. Therefore, I'm a good person." And yet your TikTok account is full of rage. When asked to pray for the president, whatever party, you say, well, I will, but it's not this one. Right? You're here. You're here. When you refuse to forgive, when you hold on to bitterness and anger, that is the seed that grows into the tree of violence. And its fruit is the world in which we live in right now. And what Jesus does, starting in verse 23, is he says, if you come to the altar to offer your sacrifice and you realize you have not reconciled with your brother, leave the gift, go be reconciled, which means reconciliation is more important than the ritual of worship. If all it is ritual, it's empty. Go reconcile. Because if you want to fix that problem that leads to the command, "You shall not murder," the answer is forgiveness. What is the one thing we're not doing as a nation? We ain't forgiven. We won't sit down with each other. We won't do it. We'll not do it. And this is a cultural problem that we have. And when we do sit down, it is for clicks that we can say that we own the libs, or we got those racists, or whatever phrase we want to use. It is to gain tribal points, not to promote peace in life. And then we wonder why people grab guns. So for such a simple command, boy, we've made a mess of it. I want to show you one thing. When we went through this passage years ago, Sermon on the Mount, I noticed this, and I thought this was really insightful. I want to share it again. So I actually just copied and pasted my notes, this part of it. What Matthew does is he actually proves this point in the narrative. So let's follow what happens with the religious elites. Matthew 9, when the Pharisees saw this, they said to the disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Now notice, it's if you just isolate, it's pretty innocent. They have a question. But behind the question is something else. But innocent enough, okay? And then you can go a little farther. But the Pharisees said, "He casts out demons by a prince of demons." See the difference? Go from questioning to accusation. So that little seed is already growing. Matthew's on to something. Right? Isn't this incredible? So you have the command clearly in Sermon on the Mount, and then Matthew goes, "I'll show it to you if you're looking for it." You can go from there in Matthew 12. The Pharisees went out and conspired against him, how to destroy him. Oh, so now you go from accusation to conspiracy. A few verses later, when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "It is only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, that this man casts out demons." Again, much like the one there in Matthew 15, the disciples came and said to him, do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? And Jesus is thinking, yeah, I know where this is going. They've been conspiring against me. And then we get this. The Pharisees went out and plotted how to entangle him in his words. Why? The plot, the conspiracy, is for him to be killed. And what happens in a few chapters after this? He is hanging from a cross. This is what happens. We have let the seed of anger and bitterness and pride grow among a country that lacks self-control. And what happens? We have fueled the flame of violence. And so we take a command as simple as, don't kill each other. And we find ourselves justifying that, though true, he had it coming. Or they better not try to come after me. And all of a sudden, we've lost all moral high ground. The good news of the gospel is it takes the violation of this command, murder. And I believe Jesus was murdered. And Jesus suffers on that broken command, and he conquers it. So that you and I, as believers, no longer have to choose violence. Because enough violence was satisfied at the cross. We choose grace. And until we grasp that, this nonsense you're getting on your telly will not end. The hope of America is not an election. It is repentance and faith in Jesus Christ. That's it. Okay. I wish Danny were here. I'd ask him if we missed anything. So we've covered the gauntlet, haven't we? Next week is it adultery? Oh, no. Yeah, it's adultery. It's just going to be worse. It is worse. Fortunately, there's no modern examples we can use of us violating that command, is there? Which is interesting. You cannot separate violence from intimacy. The two go hand in hand. So it's no wonder then that they are together. They are glued together this way. A society that is overly sexualized is a society that will become violent. Okay, anything else before we go? Okay, now that you're depressed, okay, the good news is we're different, and we can change the world through Jesus. How about we pray, and we'll be dismissed. You're probably tired of hearing me pray. Shane, are you good at praying? Would you be willing to pray? Yeah. Love that. Thank you.